Getting left at the altar is one of the most heartbreaking experiences a person can go through. You feel embarrassed and almost betrayed that your partner would give up on you right before the big moment. Unfortunately, some celebrities have gone through this horrible experience, and I will be breaking them down in part 2 of this list. In at number 10, Jesse Spencer and Jennifer Morrison. We're not sure which of these house stars called off their wedding, but after getting engaged, the couple did not make it down the aisle. The house co-stars planned to get married in 2007, just months after Jesse proposed in Paris. But shortly before the wedding, the couple announced it was off. In a joint statement, they said, quote, "After much consideration, we have decided not to get married. We are still very close, and we look forward to continuing to work together on House." I guess the tension between them translated over to the workplace because their characters got married, then divorced in the following season of the show. And at number 9, Marilyn Manson. Punk rock singer Marilyn Manson was left at the altar by Evan Rachel Wood in the move that would end their toxic relationship. The pair had been on and off basically their entire relationship, with them splitting up in 2008 for what we thought would be for good. But the couple ended up getting back together and even getting engaged while on stage during a concert in Paris in 2010. But 8 months later, Wood called off the engagement shortly before they were set to wed. Since breaking off the engagement, the couple did not get back together and moved on with other people. However, in the years that would follow, Wood started opening up about being in a toxic and harmful relationship in the past, but she would never say who that relationship was with. Until other women started coming out against Manson, then Wood took to Instagram to clarify that he also her. She is now a vocal part of the movement against him. And at number 8, Bristol Palin. Bristol Palin shook up the 2008 presidential election when her mother and vice presidential candidate, Sarah Palin, announced that her 17-year-old unmarried daughter was pregnant. The wedding was set to take place after the election was over, and it would be between Bristol and her baby daddy Levi Johnston. But after Palin lost the election, the pair did not go through with the wedding, leading some to believe the marriage proposal was all for political theater. Apparently, the engagement lasted only 3 weeks before it was called off. This was only the first time a wedding of Bristol's was called off. Her engagement to former Marine Dakota Meyer also fell through. In a statement, Bristol said, quote, "I guess you've seen by now that the wedding that was supposed to happen last weekend was called off. I'm sure you've seen this has been all over the media, but this is a painful time for family and friends, and I would just really appreciate your prayers." And at number 7, Kesha Nicole Nichols. San Antonio Spurs forward Richard Jefferson broke up with his fiancée, Nets dancer Kesha Nicole Nichols, at the altar. In 2009, just hours before the $2 million ceremony was set to begin, he decided to send Nichols an email telling her it was over. Can you imagine getting broken up with via email on the day of your wedding? Like, what kind of person could even do that? Guests and family were absolutely stunned at the news, but apparently Jefferson tried to make it better by letting his guests use his black Amex card for the evening. I'm not sure how this is logistically possible, but I'm sure he spent a ton of money on that card. Apparently Jefferson felt so bad about putting Kesha in that position, he ended up giving her a quote 6-figure settlement to help her move on. She later starred on TV's Basketball Wives, so thankfully it wasn't all for nothing. And at number 6, Jarret Stoll. Just 2 months before the couple had planned to marry in an August 2009 wedding, the hockey player dumped model Rachel Hunter. Reportedly, this was another case where the man ended the engagement through an email. I can't believe how awful that would be. This email was addressed to Rachel and all of their guests, where he wrote that he would no longer be going through with the marriage. Sources said Rachel was in the midst of wedding planning when she got the bad news. After the split, Rachel's rep asked the media to respect her privacy during that extremely upsetting time. Halfway number 5, Janine Turner. Before his marriage to Hilaria, Alec Baldwin left his fiancée Janine Turner at the altar. These stars got engaged in 1983, way back when they were in their 20s, and both were struggling actors trying to make their mark on the business. Shortly before the day of the marriage, Alec realized he couldn't go through with it. Even though Turner claimed the decision was mutual, she had already picked out her dress and had sent out the wedding invites, meaning it was probably not as mutual as they wanted it to seem. She later revealed, quote, "The breakup was very, very painful. For some payback, she actually pawned the engagement ring for some quick cash. This happened right before getting her breakout role on Northern Exposure." And at number 4, Petra, Nemcova, and Jamie Belman. This is another case where we have no idea who's responsible for the engagement ending, but all we know for sure is that it did. Swimsuit model Petra Nemcova got engaged to actor Jamie Belman in January of 2011, many years after her previous fiancé tragically passed away in a tsunami in 2004. She had everything planned and was telling the media all the details of her lavish ceremony, including the fact that she was set on wearing a Marchesa wedding dress. But then out of nowhere, the couple announced in a joint statement that they would not be getting married after all. A statement from the couple's team read, quote, Petra, Nemcova, and Jamie Belman confirmed their separation. They remain close friends and thank their families for their continued support during this time. In at number 3, Maria Sharapova and Sasha Vujavic. The tennis star and the LA Lakers player got engaged in October of 2010 and planned to get married in 2012 in a ceremony in Istanbul. But before the wedding came, it was called off. Both parties were pretty silent on the matter until Maria was asked about it during a press conference and confirmed they were no longer together. She replied, quote, "It's been since the end of spring. I was waiting for someone to actually ask me that question." She added that she is generally pretty private about these things, but felt the public should know since the couple openly talked about their engagement. Maria added, quote, "I've never really been the person to announce things. I never announced when we were together or never announced when we were engaged. I never have in any of my previous relationships as well." She added that their busy schedules made it hard to be together, and his move to Turkey was the final nail in the coffin. And at number 2, Paul Walker. The Fast and Furious actor is best known for his role as Brian O'Connor and for tragically passing away in a car accident. Little known fact about him is that he was left at the altar by his daughter's mother before she was born. But after she found out she was pregnant, they got back together and stayed together for some time with their daughter Meadow. After their split, Meadow and her mother moved to Hawaii and had little contact with Paul. This all took place before he got Fast and the Furious role. Years later, after Paul Walker passed away, his daughter Meadow got engaged, and Vin Diesel, his co-star, walked her down the aisle, which was really cute. And finally, number 1, Shakira. The Colombian singer is another celebrity that was left at the altar, and sadly it was a devastating moment in her life. Before meeting her longtime partner, Jarret, she was in another long-term relationship with lawyer Antonio de la Rua. The pair were together for a long time, so after some time they decided to make things official and get married. But unfortunately, 2 weeks before they were set to tie the knot, he ended the relationship. Since Shakira is currently not married to the man that she's been with for over 12 years and shares 2 children with, it's clear that her fiancé leaving her at the altar has had a permanent impact. It seems she has no plans to get married in the future. When speaking about it in an interview, she revealed, quote, "To tell you the truth, marriage scares the shit out of me." So that's all for the list. Let me know your thoughts below. Before I go, I'm going to shout out some comments from part 1 of this list. Mary Beth said, "As much as it must hurt to have a wedding not happen, it's far better than going through with it only to end up miserable." Absolutely, the pain of a divorce, I'm sure, is way worse than the pain of getting left at the altar. I mean, sure, it's embarrassing, but other than that, there's no legal hoops you have to jump through. Then Carol said, "If I could turn back time, I would have left my ex-husband at the altar." Wow, that is so crazy. Then Teresa said, "It must be devastating to be left at the altar. Maybe it's for the best." I think it's usually for the best because, again, if you go through with it, then you're just in an unhappy marriage, and it's kind of like a Kim Kardashian situation. She probably knew she shouldn't get married before her wedding, but she felt so much pressure to do it, and then they ended up getting divorced, only a few weeks after. Then Mary said, "Sienna Miller was the other first. Sadie was married to Jude, and she hooked up with her best friend's husband." Oh my god, I did not know that. So it's that time-old saying, how you get them is how you lose them, so you don't want to get them in a shady way. Alright guys, that is all for the video today. I've been your host, Mackenzie Smith, and we'll catch you in the next one.